Okay, Dave, are
I'm
we
waiting
okay?
for it to come. I'm waiting for it to come up. It says redirecting to YouTube now. So,
Oh, then I think we'll hear some sort of announcement, right?
okay.
My
Yeah,
my
now
screen
now
my screen says it's live.
it's on now. Yeah. So now let me start the recording and we're good to go.
Yeah, I see that too in the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. That's
We're good
it's
now.
the recording that we get the announcement. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we're all good, ready to go. I'll go ahead and start the meeting. I call the Guam Board of Accountancy July board meeting to order. Present are board members Taling Taitano, Francis Baba, Jenny Chu, myself, and would like to welcome new board member, Mr. Sean Phillips. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you.
Yep. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. It's great to have you on board. Look forward to working you for, as long as we can. Also present, of course, is Executive Director Dave Sanford. Before we begin, just to reconfirm, like we always do now, that this meeting has been properly announced. I'm just looking at the announcement that was included in the board package.
Yep.
Right there. So we can continue to have this meeting. So the next item would be the approval of the minutes of last month's board meeting, which was in June. And please take time to read it if you haven't. I know Talling sent in some comments and Dave responded with the corrections.
Mhm.
Just Dave, you want to
I think
just tell us what
we were
corrections?
okay. We had a typo and then an issue with, I guess it was the question of how this was explained about the withholding of the 250,000 TCD that matured and we got it in the bank account, but we were going to contribute it, but basically we decided not to contribute it yet to the endowment fund because we're hoping to influence UOG to make some changes in the accounting program. And we thought that the only real leverage we have is funding the visiting professor program. So we're trying to get to the end of the ad hoc committee report and have some of the changes made that the ad hoc committee voted, what was it, John, 6-1, I guess, or 5-1 to make the changes.
Yes.
And then, the division meeting that was had, our committee wasn't even allowed, committee point person wasn't allowed to speak at all. So we're waiting to see some of these changes take place before we put more money into the program. So maybe that wasn't clear the way this was explained in the minutes. That's the main issue. The other one was the typo we had in a question about the MRAs, and no, I'm not recommending we ever sign on to any MRA because of the level of competition we might have that we don't want to invite. And also in my experience, most of the people that are using MRAs are using them to get around some of the requirements. Possibly they try to use an MRA to get a US CPA in one jurisdiction so they can practice in another, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure
Dave,
it's beneficial at all for us. Sure.
Okay, Dave, just want to just clarify, just so I understand that. So I guess these countries that have these MRAs, so CPAs from that jurisdiction, in theory, can have, I guess, a more streamlined path to a US CPA. So for example, Hong Kong, I think we have an MRA with Hong Kong. So someone with a Hong Kong CPA can, for example, get a license from Tennessee, for example, and practice in the US with this Tennessee license. But what if they wanted to come to Guam and get a Guam license? How would we address that? Would we know that they received their Tennessee license through an MRA?
We would know that only by checking their license on CPA Verify or with the accounting licensee database internally with NASMA. But typically what would happen in that instance is they could do that, and then they could actually, under mobility, practice in Guam, but only to the extent that they could provide non-attest services. If we had signed on to the MRA with Hong Kong, if Guam had signed on, then they would basically just use the MRA to come and get a Guam license and do everything. So that way, the way it works now, they could come with a license from one of the other jurisdictions in the States. They could actually practice in Guam under mobility provision, but only for non-attest services. They couldn't do attest services. And that's one of the main reasons is that, our proximity to Hong Kong and Taiwan and Australia, and there have been agreements with Australia and Hong Kong and some of the other, entities, mostly in Europe and Canada and Mexico. And we've avoided signing on to those MRAs because we don't want to invite that additional competition from Australian or Hong Kong firms.
Okay, so it is still possible for those CPAs through US CPAs that achieve their licenses through the MRA to get a Guam license, but it would only say not authorized to attest, right?
Well, they wouldn't actually have a Guam license. They would only practice through mobility provision, which means they don't actually need to get a license. They can,
Okay.
by the same token that a Guam CPA, a Guam licensed CPA could actually go anywhere in the States and practice under mobility provisions.
So they wouldn't qualify for reciprocity. We would do some sort of checks to make sure that
Correct.
it wasn't done through an MRA. Okay.
Right. If they actually came in, and in order to do a test work, they would have to apply for a firm permit. And in that process, we would require them to do some level of reciprocity versus just saying it's okay because of the MRA.
Okay. Okay.
So that's kind of where it stands. I've always recommended we don't sign on to MRAs, and we have not ever, at least since I've been executive director, we have not signed on under the MRAs. And we do several times a year get inquiries of people wanting to use an MRA to get a Guam license. And we just say, sorry, we don't participate with the MRA, and they go away. So.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions about that?
None for me.
The only other thing is, since the minutes are official and get posted on our website, the stuff about specific medical ailments, I would try to just be more generic in the minutes.
Well, we can eliminate most of that stuff, I guess, if you want to. Typically, we've always just included it, but in the past, up until the requirement to post everything publicly, I don't think it mattered a whole lot because it was only between the board and the central file office. So. But you're right, we can start eliminating most of those details if the board agrees with that. From a privacy standpoint, I'm good with that.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's fine, as long as I think we discuss the details in the meeting, right? Because I think the reason why we do that is so we can identify at what level of ailments are we going to excuse. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the main reasons we require the detail is to just be sure that they're actually telling us what happened, not something they made up along the way. So. But we don't have to put all of it in the minutes. That's true. Okay.
Okay.
Move to approve subject to correction.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Francis. Thank you, Francis. Okay, Dave. Next item. What is it? Are we going to go to old business, the accountancy update?
Yeah.
Endowment fund update.
Yeah, the Guam Accountancy Endowment Fund. As you can see here, it peaked up a little in the first part of July, but everything is still kind of spiraling downward. We've moved down from the 4.7 million to 4.2, 4.1. Now we're back to the 4.2. So only in the first 2 weeks of July, but the market continues to go up and down. We haven't really made any changes or expenditures or anything. The June statement is here, and it's basically showing that we're year to date down 17% versus the 2 years of almost 11 to 12% gains. So we're according to this 5.2% annualized return since inception in 2015, which is not bad considering that this started from a $200,000 deficit from the previous management firm. So when we put in the first 1 million, so on the whole, we're hanging in there just like everybody else is, I guess. And what happens is going to depend on what the market does. We have the other 250 that matured, and then another 250 that's maturing early next year. So we can add another 500,000 to the endowment fund within, I think it matures in early 2023. So within the next year, we can add at least another 500,000. So, and hopefully the market will bounce back up to at least stay even, and then we'll have a little bit of earnings to compensate for continuing the program. And that's where we're at now. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Yeah, Dave, just a general question. What sort of initiatives or programs are funded from this?
Yeah, I should send you all the documents, Sean, but basically we're funding the visiting professor and lecturer program. And what we've done is in conjunction with the University of Guam for 3 summers, I think. And then this past spring semester at UOG was the first semester that we had a full-time visiting professor. Mm-hmm. So we've had these guys from Mississippi come and teach summer classes, and they teach auditing and forensic accounting class and that kind of thing. And then we had Professor Ray Johnson and his wife Marilyn both came and spent the entire spring semester here. Mm-hmm. And Ray taught. He was supposed to teach a capstone course that he had written for University of Guam, and he was supposed to teach it in conjunction with Doreen, but that didn't happen because of various reasons. So he wound up teaching an auditing course and then doing some mentoring with Martha on the MAC program, because the MAC program has gotten approved, but it was developed, initially written, I think, 5 years ago. And in the process of getting it approved now, CPA Evolution came along and changed a lot of the education goals. Right. So he and Martha spent some time going through that to revise the MAC program. So she's now in charge of the program and in charge of doing that. So basically, that's what we've been funding, as a visiting professor to come and teach. And Ray's the first one that came for a full semester and, got fully involved with the students, and the students loved it. Martha was fantastic. She agreed. She loved it. Doreen didn't like it so much, but otherwise everything worked out pretty good. And the dean appointed an ad hoc committee, and we were on that. And John, I think, has been working with Ray to finalize that ad hoc committee report, which makes some recommendations to improve the program. One of which is eliminate this entrance exam they've been using to eliminate people from the accounting program, and require matriculation between the professor and the students in the online courses. and in the past, they've had courses where there was no scheduled time between the instructor and the students. It's online. Here's the book, teach yourself. So anyway, all that's in the ad hoc committee report. So the upshot of that is that hopefully the ad hoc committee will become a subcommittee of the advisory council or SBPA, and then have some say at least over the conduct of the program and help improve the quality. And going forward, we're looking at trying to bring, the ideal would be to at least have one visiting professor each semester to stay for a whole semester and teach. The other idea is at this point is now that the MAC program is being realized slowly but surely, it's designed to provide our UOG graduates with the 150 hours they need now for licensure. So we may wind up with the endowment, the Guam Accountancy Endowment Fund, supporting professors to assist in instruction with the MAC program. And that could be either online or resident in person. But I think the MAC program is intended to be conducted fully online. So we may need to fund professors to fill in for part of the MAC program, because obviously we need more than right now. We have Doreen and Martha, and I think there's one position that's coming open, but we need the faculty. But the real idea is to bring people with experience that can not only benefit our students, but also benefit our faculty in terms of mentorship. So that worked well between Ray and Martha, I think. So, but that's kind of where we're going with it.
Okay.
We've had other requests to do other things, but I've typically been the bad guy and denied everything, but that, but the professor funding. So,
okay, thanks.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions? Okay, the statement's here for the viewing. So, John, we can move on to the new business request for approval if you're ready.
Yes. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the applications for the initial certification and licensure.
Okay, we had, I think there's 18 total. We don't have any issues with them. We only got 18 done this time because the girls have been working on the renewals. And we did quite a few renewals, as we always do in June. Most of them were done. I can't remember exactly how many.
Dave, sorry, what does it mean?
16.
Does that mean there are others? Sorry, does that mean that there's some candidates that have submitted their applications for licensure, but it's just on hold until we issue all the the annual licenses?
They process as many as they can, but there's always a few pending, but most of what's pending is I think at this point, pending documentation, stuff like that. And that needs to be submitted, and then we have to review it. So that review process has gotten delayed a little bit because of all the renewals that we've been doing. So, but yeah, I think we'll be catching up next month. Because typically we have about 50 a month, but we only got to 16 this month.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that just wondering, because we usually get more than 50, so there'll be a backlog, and then we'll get a lot flowing in later. Okay.
Yeah, there's more in the pipeline, that's for sure. It hasn't gone down at this point, but there's 16 total this time. So we need a motion to approve, unless anybody has any questions.
Move to approve.
Second by Francis. Thank you, Francis.
Okay, thank you.
Next item would be the credit extensions.
Right. We've typically denied credit extensions for all of the people who are coming and saying, "Oh, COVID has me locked down. I can't go anywhere to take a test." Da 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 da. Can you extend me to the end of 2023? We've extended most of those people for 2 years already, and if they're still not going to make the effort to go anywhere, we're just going to have to let it go. I don't think we can extend people for 3 years. It's gotten a little bit ridiculous. Some of the requests we got were from people in China that I'm locked down, da 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 da. And when I email it to NASBA and they say, well, a lot of other people from China have been traveling and have taken the test in other places, so we don't understand why they can't do the same. So we had one guy that came and said, well, my company says that we can't travel and, we need to turn in our passport. And I'm like, well, we've extended you for 2 years already and you've been with the same company. So if you're still not going to let you go anywhere, maybe you need to think about what kind of career you want to have. So it's just, it's gotten to the point where some of the excuses get a little ridiculous. The ones we have here are the only ones we have that are requesting for a couple of months extension, and it's typically it's all based on incidences more or less beyond their control. So I don't have any problem with granting these extensions. The one is for the caretaker of the parents. They all had COVID. The other one is the lady who had the miscarriage, and the other one is the one that lost his grandfather and, is the caregiver for the whole family, all that kind of stuff. So I don't have any issues with these. They're only asking for a 2 to 3 month extension in most cases. So
these are new requests, right, Wade?
Yes.
These are new requests.
Right. They come, yeah. Typically what we do here, these are only the requests we've received since the last meeting. So, or since, we've never brought them up before. Yeah. So unless the board has any objections, I have no objections to extending these people for the 2 to 3 months they're asking for. They've been very reasonable.
No
2
issues
to 3
from
months.
Okay.
Okay, no issues, Dave. Looks like it's okay.
Okay. Then we'll go forward with that. The next thing we have is this. The ICPA sent the draft of the new blueprints. Let me get to, I think it's page 38. Yeah, here. There. I'm sure you guys probably all got to this. If not, you probably will soon. But the AICPA is soliciting feedback on the CPA exam exposure draft, which is relative to the blueprints, the new exam blueprints they put out, which covers the whole thing is 140 pages long, something like that. And I included it here, basically just for the record. But the main points is aligning the exam with the licensure, the new licensure model. It covers the entire process of what they've been through. So I just highlighted a few of the areas here where the model establishes the foundation for all, and they use the NLCPAs, meaning newly licensed CPAs, what they need to know to protect the public and interest. And we're moving forward to the new core and discipline licensure model, which I think most of us have heard about. With the core is still auditing FAR and reg just like it is today. And BEC becomes business analysis and reporting, information systems and controls, and tax compliance. So the new exam will be the typical 3 core parts: auditing, FAR, and reg, and then one of the 3 disciplines that you take. The disciplines are designed to focus on topics that apply to newly licensed CPAs engaged in those areas of practice and are less likely to be encountered by newly licensed CPAs who are not focused in those areas of practice. So they're trying to focus people with their, desires, I guess, to be in either tax or an IT or business analysis and reporting, financial statement reporting, and this typically focuses on GAAP statements versus FAR. When you think of financial accounting and reporting, this applies more to the general accounting theories and processes. Analysis and reporting focuses on GAAP preparing and evaluating GAAP statements. That's the difference there. And you have information system and controls like the SOC reports and things, and then the tax compliance and planning is financial planning, meaning financial planning. So, but even though you take the 3 core in one discipline, everybody gets the same CPA license. There's no distinction on the license as to what discipline you took or anything else. It's all, everybody just has the same license. And your practice is not limited to any discipline. When you take the exam, you can only take one discipline, that kind of thing. So just to cover a little bit of this here, the data and technology components is assessed in all of the core and discipline sections and includes all these things. It's designed to test the higher order skills to be assessed in all sections, including critical thinking, problem solving, analytical ability, professional skepticism, and research. So they're focusing data and technology through the entire exam because they're saying it basically flows through all of the different sections, but each area of it has a different focus, is pretty much what they're saying here. Under here, they're saying that, the exam is designed to provide reasonable assurance to the boards that individuals who pass the exam possess the minimum level of knowledge and skills necessary for initial licensure. So they did the practice analysis, which is designed to support the commitment to protecting the public, remaining current, all this legal, reliable, psychometrically valid, and fulfills the needs of the boards in carrying out the licensing responsibilities. And then substantially all of the content previously assessed in BEC has been reallocated to audit, FAR, business analysis, reporting, and information systems and controls. So audit and FAR are the 2 core sections, and then BAR and ISC are the 2 discipline sections. That they took the old BEC section and split it up into these 4 parts. The practice analysis focused on highlighting the following points: data and technology concepts. So the data and technology concepts and higher order skills will be tested in all core and discipline exam sections. The new content areas are primarily in the ISC, which is information system and controls, and the tax compliance and planning sections, the discipline sections. So IT, infrastructure, platform, services, security, confidentiality, privacy, and considerations for SOC report engagements is assessed in the IOC section. Personal financial planning and tax planning will be assessed in the TCP discipline exam section. So that's kind of where they're going. ESG, which we've probably all gotten tired of hearing about by now, which is something that everybody's talking about in terms of buzzwords, and some companies are paying attention to, others are not. While it's all there, and the disclosure of information is an area of increasing focus, the practice analysis research indicated that newly licensed CPAs have very minimal roles in ESG matters. So at this point, it's not being included in the exam. So it could at a later point be included, but at this point, the general indication with practice analysis was that there's not enough newly licensed CPAs dealing with ESG matters to make it viable for including in the exam. Okay, the bottom line with the exposure draft is it's all here for everybody to read and go through the blueprints and the education assignments, and it follows. There's a following section in the appendix that details by each exam section what it's designed to cover, how much of it's MCQs, multiple choice questions, and how much of it's task-based simulations, what the weighting is, et cetera, et cetera. So we could all go through that, but I've been in 3 meetings already that discussed all of this, and nobody in any of the meetings I've been in has come up with any, major comments that apply in terms of changing anything. There's tweaking here and there, but nothing major in terms of things that are left out or things that need to be added, things like that. The transition policy that's been put forth by the admin committee and accepted at this point as being announced under this exposure draft is essentially anybody who passes BEC before December 31st, 2023 will continue into 2024 only having to take their core disciplines, which is audit, FAR, and reg, because those continue pretty much as is into the new exam. If you have not passed BEC by December 31st, 2023, and starting in January 2024, you will have to take one of the 3 discipline sections. So essentially, the exam as it exists today, audit, FAR, and reg, continues into 2024. And anybody who hasn't passed one of those by the end of 23 just continues to take it in 2024. The only thing that changes is BEC. As a section, that goes away in 2024 and is replaced by the 3 disciplines. The business analysis and reporting, the information system and controls, or the tax compliance and planning. So that's the transition policy in terms of if you haven't passed BEC by the end of 23. The other thing that, here the blueprints have all been published and the detail is all here in the appendix for comment. And I think the blueprints really are designed to inform instructors and CPE providers, the study group providers, everybody, what they need to focus on for each section relative to developing their materials, and also to help the candidates understand what each section is focused on in terms of subject matter and content to help them prepare. And then the other, and it's all laid out in the appendix, and the request for comments is before September 30th. I think the majority of the comments that would come from going through the blueprints, and I'll those down here to the thing, is mostly going to come from educators. They're going to be looking into what changed and what's changed and how does it apply to their programs. And that's part of, this is part of the blueprint appendix. Some of it gives you an idea of the exam design. Part of it's going to be focused on how do we take the blueprint and align our curriculum, our current education curriculum, to match the blueprint details, so that you have some idea of I guess you could call it teaching to the exam, but and the review course providers and the MAC programs that are going to be focused on preparing you to be a CPA, they would use these. And I think that's where most of the comments would come from. So, and here's just the contents for the blueprints: auditing, This covers ethics and assessing risk and developing planned responses, performing procedures, obtaining evidence, forming conclusions, and reporting. And each one of these areas is broken down farther in the blueprint itself. So you've got the for audit, FAR, and reg, and then for the 3 disciplines, the same thing here, like the bar business analysis and reporting focuses on business analysis, technical accounting, and state and local government, which is included there. ISC focuses on information systems, security, confidentiality, considerations, SOC engagements, and tax compliance with tax compliance and planning, personal financial planning, entity tax compliance, tax planning, and property transactions. So then you go farther and it breaks it down and each area. Here's this is the one for audit. So it breaks it down, explains how it's assessed and what its focus is and the areas of focus, which you can see down here in the content area. And then each content area is discussed in detail. So all of this is, I included all of it here for the record, but typically most of the comments on these blueprints are going to come from the educators, I think. Does anybody have any questions on this, or have I put everybody to sleep already?
No, I think Dave. So it looks like after January 2024, I'm assuming most people, I guess, want to be auditors. So they would be taking basically audit, reg, FAR, and bar. Did I get that right?
Yeah, basically,
And
yeah,
then
you're right.
those-
Yeah, if you're in accounting or auditing, you would take the 3 core plus bar. If you're interested in the IT, you would take the information systems and controls discipline. And then if you're interested in the tax or personal financial planning, you would take the TCP section or discipline, sorry.
So pretty much everyone will still continue to take audit, the odd, odd, FAR, and reg.
And reg, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 3 core. So everybody takes the core, and then you would select one discipline. And you can take more than one discipline, but only if you haven't passed one. In other words, if I decided to take information systems and controls, and I took that discipline and I failed it, I could switch to take another discipline. But if I passed it, I'm done. You can't pass one discipline and then go take another one and pass that too. It's just not allowed. And the thinking behind that was, according to the psychometricians, is that the individual discipline test sections are not designed to prove you're an expert. It doesn't by any means mean you're expert in that area as in earning a separate credential. It just means that that's the focus that you were interested in. So you can switch, but once you pass one, you're done. You can't take another one and then go out and say, oh, look, I took tax and information system, you know, da, 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 da. It's not meaningful in that sense. So that's where the discipline thing is coming from. So.
Hey, Dave,
So
can
then
you
your
take
license,
the,
when you actually, go ahead, Sean.
question, can you take the discipline section before you take a core section?
Sure, you can take
It doesn't
any of
matter what
the
the sequence is.
sequence doesn't matter, no. And
Okay.
on top of that, it is so today to some extent, but as of January 24, with the new exam, the testing will be completely continuous. There's no windows, there's no delay time in terms of, you know, you can't test now. The only condition on testing will be for what we term a testing candidate, meaning somebody who's just in the process of testing. If you take a section, you can take that section again as soon as you receive the score for that section. In other words, if I took the ISC discipline and I can schedule to take it again within 3 or 4 weeks, presuming that I got the score that said I failed. If I passed a course, you don't need to take it, but you have to receive the score for that section before you actually sit for the again. But you can take it immediately after you get the score, so you don't have to wait 3 months or 6 months. You know, the hope behind that theory is that the sooner you take it, if you failed it, the sooner you take it again, the better off you're going to be. So, you know, go study up a little extra and take it again. So there's not going to be any limitation on, you know, as in the past, if you took a section in one window, you couldn't take it again in that window. You had to wait till the next window, that kind of thing. That all goes away also. So.
Are the discipline questions much different from the current BEC exam questions?
I don't think. In terms of what, Jen?
Difficulty.
No, I don't think there's any real difference in that sense. I think the only difference is that in the current BEC, they had, of course, multiple choice and the task-based simulations. And then they had the essay question, the written communication section. And they've ditched the written communication because it's just two things. Number one, it's very hard to grade. It's all graded manually, which is very costly. And number two, they looked back over the last, how many years of the computer exam, 17 years now or 18 years, and discovered that the grading of the written communication affected less than 1% of all the people that passed or failed the exam, either way. So they're thinking that it's just not doing what it needs to do for relative to the cost. So they said that originally they thought that when they put it in, that within 5 to 10 years there would be automated methods of scoring written communication, and that just hasn't happened. AI has advanced a lot, but not that far. So they took it out, and everything now is multiple choice or task-based simulations, but they have been able to improve the task-based simulations. So, but I think all the questions are going to be on par in each section. The only thing that's happening with the new exam and starting in 24, which is it's going to push a lot of the current candidates into trying to pass before the end of 23, of course, like it did before in 2010 and 11. But once you get into 2024, there's going to be a slowdown in delays because the discipline sections are all new sections. The psychometricians say they're going to need several months to be able to adequately evaluate the validity of the scoring and produce new raw scores and cut scores and all those kind of things. And so the score delays are going to be like 2 to 3 months. So if you take the exam in January 24 and you take a discipline section, you're probably going to wind up getting your score in April or May. So because of that, the policy that's being put forth from a transition into the new exam standpoint is that anybody who has existing credits as of December 31st, 2023, those credits will be extended to June 30th of 2025, meaning that they're all going to be valid for the first 18 months of the new exam. And that's basically because of the score delays. And they're predicting the first initial score delays, but they don't really know how the follow-on delays are going to affect people, and they won't know until they can actually evaluate the exams, the new sections of the exam and the scoring, and whether the questions are actually valid or not, and do they have to throw them out and add new questions, stuff like that. So they know they're going to have score delays, and just in order to eliminate all of my credits expiring, you delayed my score, I need extension. In order to eliminate all of that, they're going to automatically give everybody credit extensions to June 30th of 2025. So that's one of the things going to happen. And some people will complain because they got their credit in December 23 and the other one got hers in January 23. And well, you got 11 more months credit than I did. Well, too bad. That's just the way it's got to be. So, but if you have credit for a section you've passed as of December 2023, it will be good until June of 2025. So that's coming down the pike too. So of course, all of these things are going to require a change in our rules. So I'm starting to rewrite the rules already. So,
Dave, just a question on the rules. So, because currently we have two types of licenses. Well, we have two or three, but we have license to attest and then a license not to attest.
Non-attest.
Non-attest. And so for those seeking an attest license, would they need to go the path of the the bar? They'd have to go and take that bar section?
I don't believe so. I don't think so.
As long as they pass. Okay, so they could pursue the tax. And as long as they get
Sure.
the experience, then they can still get the test license.
Correct. I think our attest license is based on the actual experience, 1,000 hours of experience. So at this point, that's the only thing that's going to make a difference from the attest versus non-attest.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't think we could focus on the bar section being required of auditors because some, may like tax or whatever, but if they still wind up on
An audit.
most newly licensed CPAs wind up in audit one way or the other when they start, especially if they start in the bigger firms, unless they really are focused on tax and maybe come out with a master's in tax to begin with. But
Yeah, okay.
yeah, but the other side of that is that from an evolution model standpoint, everybody's encouraged to look at you pass the exam, no matter which discipline you've taken. When you pass the exam, we're all equal. You're all equal relative to qualification as a quote newly licensed CPA. So.
I did one more question. What is the expected pass rate given section?
Well, typically the psychometricians will tell you if they have a pass rate or a fail rate between, the 45 to 55% on any one section, then they have a valid section. So that's
Okay.
kind of what they're looking at. We've seen in the past that the pass rate on BEC has gone up to like 60% in some cases.
Mhm.
And they were looking for the reasons for that. And some of the reasoning behind that was that, well, some of the people taking it, there's more people with advanced degrees, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I'm not sure they came up with any actually valid reasoning behind this is why it happened, but they've seen it go up and down. But typically we all wind up with pass rates in the 60%.
Okay.
50%.
Well, that's relative to the pass rate of any one section. If you're looking at candidate pass rates, then typically we wind up, some jurisdictions wind up with their candidates and 70% of their candidates passing, that kind of thing. But that's typically because they're smaller jurisdictions and have a lot of people with advanced degrees taking the exam. Any other questions on the blueprints? It's good bedtime reading if anybody needs has a problem falling asleep. Took me a while to get through it.
Can you, or maybe you already did, can you email a clean copy? Some of the copies in the agenda are cut off. Some
Oh,
of the
really?
pages. Yeah,
Really?
at least in my copy.
Okay. Yeah, I can email you. I can email you the actual separate PDF file. Okay.
I think it was some of the landscape sheets. Anyway, thanks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, you're looking at the one Arlene scanned. She mentioned that some of the stuff she scanned got cut off. I'll email you the actual PDF file. Okay. Any other questions about blueprints? Yep.
None.
Okay.
None.
Is everybody still awake? It's exciting stuff, right?
Well, well, just from the firm, the audit firm perspective, I still have a lot of staff that,
Yeah.
this is going to change them. So I'm trying to be on top of it. So I need to go
Yeah.
discuss it with them and figure out how they're going to pass within, by then. At the same time, a lot of them don't have 150 hours. So they need to figure this out.
Yeah. 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 Well, hopefully if we get the UOG MAC program online and people can take it, maybe they can get the hours that way. Meanwhile, they've got basically 18 months to finish the exam as it stands today before it changes.
So for Guam to sit for the exam, you need 120? Is that correct?
Well,
Or you need 50?
we've never actually required, some jurisdictions will say you have to have 120 hours of education to sit. We never did. Our law and rules was predicated on having a bachelor's degree or equivalent.
Uh-huh.
So as long as your degree was judged to be equivalent to a standard bachelor's degree in the States, then we would allow you to sit. And then we created what we call the pre-education completion program. So you can sit for the exam under our law and rules as it exists within 18 months of completing your education. And in order to do that, you have to complete an application to do so. And then in the process, you have to show that you're enrolled in a program with an institution or of learning that's going to enable you to actually complete your education. You can't just say, hey, I want to sign up now because I'm going to do it later. You have to actually prove that you're enrolled in a program that's going to enable you to do it in order to be allowed to. And what happens under that program? Yeah. What happens under that program is that we don't release your scores. In other words, they're not validated until you actually complete your education. So you could be in the process of finishing your education, take the exam, pass all 4 sections, but we won't validate your scores for licensure until you prove that you complete your education. So that's the process.
And complete your education,
there are other
150 hours or a bachelor's? What does that mean?
At this point, well, it used to mean the bachelor's, but as of December 16th, when the 150 hours kicked in, now it means the 150 hours. So
okay.
Yeah.
So Dave, sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah.
So if I have, because I have a lot of staff here that have graduated, they have a bachelor's, but maybe if you look at their transcripts, maybe only have 136 hours, but they can still take the tests as of today, but within 18 months, they need to pass, and then they need to also have 150 hours.
Within 18 months of the first test that they take, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they'd have to complete the 150 hours because the education now required because of the phase in, with the 150 hour, it had a 5-year phase in program from when we enacted it in 2016, took effect December 16th. So as of now, that education completion means the 150 hours because that's what's required for licensure. So
Okay.
as opposed to other jurisdictions will say you can sit for the exam with 120 hours, but then, you still can't be licensed unless you get the 150 hours. So we put it in, we didn't want to say 120 hours because some people don't have 120 hours, but they're enrolled in a program that allows them to complete the last 2 years, or 18 months, they'll complete their education. So that's the way it works at this point. And NASBA handles all of that in terms of evaluating their transcripts and determining that they're enrolled in the program. So.
Yeah, he said the mom is with her cousin.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Any other questions about that?
Grandma, how do first cousins and stuff work?
Your first cousins if your parents are brothers or sisters.
Oh, so it's all of their kids are all of your first cousins? Oh.
Okay. Sorry about it. If everybody's ready, we can discuss the financial statement.
Yeah, let's go ahead and discuss the financials, Dave.
Okay. If you notice at the top, it's estimated because it's only July the 14th or 15th, and we don't have any information from NASBA about the June application processing. It's always almost the end of the following month. So I estimated it based on a rolling average for the last 6 months, which I come up with an estimated accrual on application fees. I come up with 107,000 as of the end of June. My estimate was right at 12,000 for the month of June. Typically, it's been running between 10 and 13,000 up and down. So I'll know in another couple of weeks. But then we have actually collected another $900 in test center fees. So we've almost got $5,000 from the test center this year so far. Just better than nothing. But that's pretty much
5,000. That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it's $100 per candidate. So
$70 per candidate.
$70.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's been a few Taiwanese and a few Koreans that actually came and took the exam here. So, I guess Randy has some connection somewhere. But the certification fees jumped up to the 110,000 in June as we processed about 100,000. I can't remember how much, but 90,000 in June. So we were looking at 135 for a year to date, and I'm pretty sure we'll hit the 135, another 25,000 over the next 3 months. I'm pretty sure we'll hit that. The renewal on the licensing fees is 238, which was 138 more than it was last month. So we've actually processed almost 1,400 renewals in the month of June itself. So that puts us within 22,000 of the budget for the year, and I'm reasonably sure we're going to hit 250 if not the 260. So I think we'll be okay there with renewals. Then the firm licensing fees are what they are. We've had a couple of them that have just basically not renewed. I think they're canceling out there were a couple of the firms that came from the Midwest before and they had a license and they were doing work here. And I think they've ended their contracts or whatever. So But that from a revenue standpoint, and we've picked up 25,000. Most of this is penalties. Very little of it is interest, actually. Well, there's maybe about $700,000 or $800,000 worth of interest. The rest is penalties and additional fees for transferring grades and stuff like that. So we're doing okay there. Expense wise, we're basically within budget. We're going to be under budget for the contract. Although we have a little bit of legal services from the last year's holdover hearing thing with the cheating problem, but otherwise we're doing okay. We're staying within our expense budget. So on a year-to-date basis through June, which is the 9 months, we're basically 202,000 ahead if you take out the 1,250,000. So we've got to 200,000 in excess revenues at this point. So and with the expenditures coming up and the renewals dropping off, I'm pretty sure we're going to have somewhere between 50 and 100,000 in excess revenues. So we should be okay for the year. And then you can see we've reduced our TCDs. We have the 250 in here also. So we're okay for the year, and we've reached the milestone where we don't actually need the test center revenues to continue our board operations. The only thing that the loss of the test center revenues really impedes is our contributions to the endowment fund that we've been making through the years. But we should still, I would think over the next couple of years, if continued growth, we should still, in licensees, we should still be able to contribute at least 100,000 a year to the endowment fund to cover most of the cost, or at least half the cost of a full-time visiting professor. And if we build it up to the 4 to 5 million mark, we should be able to earn enough interest or investment income to cover the other half. So I think we're still okay there on the whole basis. Has anybody got any questions about the financial statement? No.
None for me.
Okay. Well, we'll see. John, I don't know have you talked to Ray recently about your ad hoc committee report?
No, he's been trying to schedule a meeting with me this week, but I just had no time. I'm gonna try and schedule something, maybe not Saturday morning. Probably early, maybe Monday morning or Tuesday morning next week. Probably can do that.
Yeah.
No, I think on that, so he's got, and I read it, and I think it's, he wanted to try and have a discussion and present it to the advisory council, but the EOG advisory council, but with Annette retiring, there was, I checked, and she was not going to have another meeting before she left. So
yeah,
there was no rush anymore to try and get it before the meeting. And we really can't make anything happen until there is a new dean in place. I think that's my understanding. Otherwise, maybe we meet without the dean and we go straight to that other committee, but I don't think that would be wise. I think the dean needs to be, whoever the new dean would be, needs to be involved from that aspect. But I'll try and get a meeting with him, and then we can send it out to the rest of the ad hoc committee members by early next week.
Okay, well, I think you're right about meeting with the new dean, and from what I've heard in the past, and Jason confirmed it yesterday in our Guam Society meeting, is that the scuttlebutt is that they're going to appoint John Rivera, Dr. Rivera, as the interim dean. We know that they've put the ad out, but I have no idea what progress they're making with the selection committee, presuming they have a selection committee already formed. But what we're hearing is that they would make John Rivera the interim dean, and if that happens, then maybe we can move forward with John.
I'm not even sure there's a search committee identified because, I was talking to the advisory committee chair, and he said he doesn't know, because we've asked for at least one member on the committee, on the advisory council, to
Right.
be on that search committee. But so far, I think no one in our advisory council has been, I guess,
Advised, yeah.
advised that they're going to be on that committee. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see what I can find out, and we'll go from there. But I'm thinking that we should hold on to our funds from an investment standpoint until such time as we get some indication that they're willing to do something to improve
Okay.
the program. So.
But
Yeah.
David, in the meantime, is it sitting in savings, or are we putting it in a 30-day or a
Well,
60-day?
that's the crazy thing is I was discussing that yesterday at the Guam Society board meeting, and Jerry Philish was there, and we were discussing banks and interest rates, and he made the point that on Guam, even though the Fed rates are going up and the Feds are going to raise it again, the only thing that the banks have done is raise the interest rates on their mortgages and loans. They've not moved an inch on any of the savings. So that tells you something there. But yeah, it's sitting there, and I don't know. I mean, we could go ahead and put it in the endowment fund. The question is, from the volatility of the markets, do we want to do that today or wait or what? I have no idea. I'm not a real
Yeah.
investment guru, so I didn't. It's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen. Do we let it sit in the savings and wait till the market hits bottom, whenever that is, or do we wait until it goes up, or what? I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to put it in there and see it go down
Yeah.
another
I mean,
20%.
0.025% is better than -5.
Yeah. So I kind of figure if we wait, I watched the news report last night, and they said, well, nationwide, the jobs report shows that the average worker salary has gone up 5%, but inflation's gone up 9.1%. So he's just lost 4% anyway. So I don't know where it's going to go. But once we think that it's hit bottom, or if anybody feels that it has, let me know. I'm not an investment guru.
Idea.
And all of my stock market dealings have turned out to be, I'm about a 51% winner. So this tells you over 20 years, and you don't really ever beat the market. Anyway, there's nothing else. That's all I have. Just a reminder that the annual meeting is in October, the end of October 30th through November, or 31st through the November 2nd, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's in San Diego. So if anybody's interested in going, let me know.
Hey, Dave. Yeah. Put me down, Dave.
Okay. Registration's supposed to be starting sometime in August. So if anybody else, I'm sure we could get 2 people there if we want to. So anybody else that wants to go, let me know. Okay.
Was there an email that was sent out already announcing that it's
Not yet. I just got a thing I just got the info from the executive director call yesterday. I had 2 calls yesterday, one at 2 a.m. and one at 6 a.m. They like to meet in the early afternoon for the CBT committee, and that it's always our 1 or 2 a.m. So, but that's the one I don't want to miss. So. But the executive directors committee, Tom Kenny was saying that they're going to put out the registration for the annual meeting in August. It's in San Diego, so if anybody wants to go, let me know. That's all I have, unless anybody has any other questions.
none for me.
Okay.
Hi, this is Telling. I was just wondering, did the contract go to the governor's office yet?
Did you sign the letter yet, John, yesterday?
I did. Sign
Yeah.
something.
If if they got the letter yesterday, it should go either today or tomorrow. I'll check with Arlene to be sure that it got sent to the governor's office. Of course, the governor's off island and her legal counsel will have to write the letter and send it to the speaker again, I guess. Well, I'll check with Arlene, telling and let you know. I'll email everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Then I guess we're up for adjournment.
Okay, so can I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Talling. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Francis. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and welcome again, Sean.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Welcome, Sean.
You know,
Welcome.
Sean,
Welcome
we were
aboard.
throwing around names, you know. We were throwing around names and no one was, and then all of a sudden I mentioned, what about Sean? And all of a sudden everyone said, yes,